Hello there, everybody. We just finished watching the Xfinity race, so putting together this cup breakdown for you real quick. So it's a 267 lap race. So we got a lot of fast laps and dominator points here today. We're still learning as we go with this next gen car. Kind of learned that last week. A lot of track history wasn't as important as it needed to be, or as we thought it was going to be. So we just got to pay attention to those practice qualifying times. But, after today, I think we'll have a lot better grasp on everything. Just, having two real tracks under us today, as we saw last week, flat tire can absolutely ruin your day. You have to bring the wrecker out. You got to get towed back in. You're going to end up probably 3-4 laps down. Unless you get lucky, it's going to be hard to recover from that. New car makes it a lot more fun to watch and for the drivers, because drivers play a lot more role in it, a lot more off throttle time. And yeah, we saw some problems with JGR last week. Don't think that's going to continue this week. I saw they got a new grill, so that should help with their overheating problems. And based on what we saw in practice and qualifying, doesn't really seem to be as big of an issue this week so far. So hopefully that stays true for the race. And yeah, there's a lot of value around, because this new car kind of equalized the spread between those top teams and some of those lower teams, or some new teams putting in a lot of money. And Draftkings just hasn't quite caught up yet. So there's a lot of value to be found there. And so we'll just get right into this, and we'll start with you, Rich.
Kyle Larson starting second. Christopher Bell beat him in qualifying and got the pole lap, but Kyle Larson had the best 5 and 10 lap average speeds. In my opinion, he's probably going to be the car to beat tomorrow. Probably will be the top dominator. We might see another dominator or two in the race, depending on how cautions fall and whatnot. But I have a feeling he'll be one of the guys leading. Probably, if he doesn't lead the most laps, he'll probably lead the second most laps. Then Chase Elliott and Logano, those guys are probably more GPP this week. Either one of them, could find themselves into the lead at some point in the race, or even win this race. I just feel more comfortable paying up for Larson, and, pretty much feeling confident that he's going to lead a lot of laps tomorrow. We really like Ryan Blaney and then Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch spawned and wrecked his primary car, so he's going to a backup. The guys at JGR have claimed that this is a parts car. It wasn't really going to be used as a regular backup car, but they're going to have to this week. I'd imagine they're going to get it fixed up and have everything ready, and he shouldn't have any big problems or whatever. Starts dead last, so it's Kyle Busch. He's probably going to be higher owned than Kyle Larson, more than likely, because if you're fading Kyle Larson, you're going to still play Kyle Busch for the PD upside. And Ryan Blaney, I believe he was third fastest behind Larson and Byron in practice. What's up, Coop? What do you think?
I agree with you, Rich. I think with Christopher Bell starting on the pole and Larson being on the front row with him, after practice and qualifying, Larson had said that he felt really confident in his long run speed. And I think that Larson eventually will overtake Bell pretty early in the race and lead a lot of laps throughout the race. So I'm willing to pay up for Larson there. I'm looking for him to dominate a lot of this race. And the other driver in this range that I'm looking at is Kyle Busch. I think he's an easy plug in. I think they're the two drivers that are going to see the most ownership, but I think it's for good reason, because I think that they really have the best chance of scoring a lot of points in this range. So I'm willing to spend the money on them and plug them into the majority of my lines.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. Kyle Larson's probably the best wheel man in the series, just much other type of racing as he does, especially on the dirt track. This car kind of lends to that. We saw him dominate last year. We've kind of seen that already this year, so we'll see and kind of expect that to continue. I really like Blaney starting 11th. He just barely missed out on being able to qualify for one of those top 10 spots, but we saw him, pretty much, he was fast in practice. I expect that to continue. I can see him, if Larson doesn't just take this to the house, I could see Blaney being one of those guys that get up there and really kind of challenge him for the lead. And we see a lot of him probably finish top 5, I hope. But we'll just move down in this next range. And I'll just start with my favorite play on this probably whole slate, and Willie B. right here starting 14th. We've seen Hendrick in general be really fast this weekend. Byron was really fast in practice. He was right behind Larson, and that kind of long run speed which we expect to play out at this race. And he's run really well here in the past. Starts 14th, so offers you a good bit of PD. Kind of expect him to come in a little bit lower owned just because he's right below these 10K guys. A lot of guys probably pay up into this range just out of habit. He's kind of in that weird spot where he probably get looked over. So I'm really high on Willie B this week. Hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt. But what do you think, Rich?
William Byron is definitely the best play in this 9K range. Kevin Harvick didn't really qualify well and didn't really show a lot of short run speed, but the Stewart Haas guys seem to have, average long run speed. So he should be able to move ahead as the race moves forward, but I can't see him getting into the top 10. So it's going to be tough to pay off the $9,100 price tag. And then Tyler Reddick, he's had a lot of speed so far this year, dominated most of the race last week until he had an unfortunate incident. But starting 7th there, unless he can get out in front and lead some laps, he can hang around there maybe and finish with the top 5 and pay off that price tag. But again, that's going to be tough. So we have these guys listed more in the GPP range. What do you think, Coop?
This is more of a range that I have interest in. I think there's a lot of interesting plays here in this range. I think Byron starting 14th to be the most expensive driver in that 9K range is worth it. And I think I'd rather pay in this 9K range. I'd rather pay for a Byron, a Truex, or a Harvick than I would a Logano, Elliott, Blaney, Hamlin. I think that the chances of those guys leading laps and dominating the race and paying off their price tag is less likely with the 9K drivers that have a little bit of place differential built into their price, because a lot of these drivers could easily get top 10s, top 5s as well. So I really like the 9K range. And then moving down, I would lump Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman into that 9K range as well, too, that upper 8K range. I really like both of those drivers as well. On the 1.5 miles, I think that Kurt has so much room to move forward starting 31st. And Alex Bowman is a driver that he's the cheapest Hendricks driver. That team has been dialed in and is really has the best chance of being the best team on the first 1.5 mile race in the new equipment. So again, we're going to learn a lot from the new equipment, but I really like the price tag on those guys. And then moving down into that lower 8K to upper 7K range, I really don't have much interest in that. So that upper 8K, lower 9K range, I will plug in more drivers from that range.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Christopher Bell lay down an absolute heater of a qualifying lap. And in practice, he had some pretty decent long run speed too. So that could be interesting there if you're running a lot of lines and you're getting a little bit of exposure on him. Hard to see him holding off Larson, but I mean, we kind of surprised by a lot of stuff last week with Reddick pretty much dominating that race. And that's kind of why we have a lot of these, these top 10 guys or 12 guys or whatever here, all high, medium. We like some of them a little bit more than others for some reasons, but it's hard to be highly against any of them. Just this car kind of is that equalizer. And once you get up into this range, the skill level is pretty tight. So it's just a little bit here. Someone finds just something a little bit here, a little bit there. They could surprise us dominant. So if you're running more than one line, I would definitely try to get your exposure spread out a little bit here just to, try to hopefully catch like that Reddick last week, which we weren't expecting. I don't think caught a lot of people off guard there, but you got anything else, Rich, for this range?
Oh, no, we moved down here to the 7K range. Probably our my two favorite plays in this range would probably be Ross Chastain and Eric Jones. Eric Jones probably a little bit more GPP just because of his track history here. He has shown some pretty good speed this week. He was really good last week. He should be able to hang around, the top 25 for most of the race. And if you can stay on the lead lap, move into the top 20 and pay off the price tag. Also, don't mind Eric Almirola here at all either. I said earlier the Stewart Haas cars haven't really shown that much speed. I think Eric's been probably one of the better ones. And he was inside the top 20 in long run speed, so he should be able to move ahead a little bit throughout the race as well.
Coop.
Yeah, Eric Almirola's had a decent start to the season, so he's been, I think, top 10 both races so far, and he's got room to move forward. So I don't mind him. Eric Jones is the play in this range that I really like. He's had a ton of speed all year, and it'll be interesting to see if he keeps that or if at the first mile and a half it falls off. But he's shown a lot of speed so far and starting 23rd there. He has more room to move forward than anybody else in that range. And then moving into the next range, I do like Cole Custer and Chris Buescher. And that I think that Stuart Haas hasn't looked great, but I think Cole Custer at 24th at that price tag has enough potential that it makes sense. And then Chris Buescher starting 27th. Again, I think there's enough room for him to move forward that it's a safe play and he offers you value at the price tag.
Yeah, Rich and I were talking about this earlier, but we were pretty close between Buescher and Custer here, and we just bumped Buescher up just a little bit higher than Custer just because he offers you that 3 more spots, so it's just a little bit safer, comes to just a little bit cheaper. But I think both of these guys could be pretty solid today. Both should be able to, or not today, but tomorrow, be able to move up a little bit. And then I do like Bubba this week. Seems like they found something a little bit in the car this week, had some pretty good long run speed. I don't expect him to do anything crazy, but I think as long as he stays clean, stays out of trouble, there's no reason that car shouldn't be able to move up into the top 15. That's all you really need out of someone doing for $6,300. And then I know we do like Justin Haley starting 28th, comes in $6,100. These college cars have been pretty damn impressive so far this year. Seems like they're really putting a lot into this program. Obviously, they have their Xfinity program figured out. Offers you a ton of PD, especially in this price range. And I don't see why these cars couldn't be top 20, maybe top 15. And if they just have a hell of a run, they could even surpass that. But you like anybody else in this range, Rich, or you move into this punt range?
The college cars, I like those guys a lot. And then if you're really looking for a punt, don't mind Corey LaJoy. He's not super great this track. I think his average finish is around like 27th or 26th, but you're not really looking for him to do a whole bunch. If you can avoid the wrecks and stay on the lead lap for as long as possible, you should be able to pay off that price tag. And honestly, like any of the guys between Harrison Burton and Todd Gillen, even if we have them at low interest, I wouldn't be afraid to play them because we're still not sure about, how good the 42 car is with Ty Dillon. Greg Biffle, he's coming back for a few races this year. So he could surprise us and race up inside the top 20. The front row cars with Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen. Michael McDowell's generally a top 25 car most of the time and sometimes finds his way inside the top 18, so he could pay off as well. We just have some guys we personally like a little bit more, and that's why we have them bumped up in interest level.
Yeah, I start the value range at Justin Haley, and moving from there down, I think it gets really interesting. And I think this being the first mile and a half in the new equipment, this is where we'll learn a lot about these teams and how their equipment holds up, performs over an entire race. And I think there's a lot of value to be found here. I'm just not sure where yet. And this is where my lines will be getting different, and I'll be sprinkling in a little ownership across different drivers. In the cheaper options, I think front row is pretty cheap there. I think Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland at 5,300 and 5,000 have some value. And I think Corey LaJoy at 5,100 starting 29th. I think he has room to move forward too. So I think this is a slate where you can go pretty cheap on a driver and pay up for some other drivers that have place differential that had, for example, a Kyle Busch that's starting 37th. It's really a very safe play. I think you can pay up for some of those drivers by going down to a cheaper option like this. And I think if you're playing multiple lines, you just kind of sprinkle it in this lower range, and then moving forward after this race, I think we'll learn a little more about how the equipment is and how the teams really run.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. I'll just touch on Emmerich since we haven't specifically talked about him. He starts 16th, so he's obviously starting the highest out of this whole range. But we saw last week he pulled off a miracle. He's 6 laps down at one point and ended up salvaging that for a great finish. So he shows he can wheel these new cars. Colleagues really committed to their program, and he had really good speed in practice. He was top 10 in both 5 and 10 lap averages. So you're getting a lot of speed out of a car for $5,800 here. Again, I don't know if I'd go all in on him if you're running multiple lines, like these guys said. Just probably sprinkle it around this range if you're going to come down here, just to avoid something crazy happening. Obviously, as we learn more, we might be able to dial this in a little bit more. But as we learn more, so does DraftKings. So who knows what'll happen with the pricing. But you guys got anything else? All I'm going to say, if you guys want to see the spreadsheet, we'll have it posted over at our Twitter at FastCarsFM. And yeah, good luck, everybody.